Late Night Health continues with our topic of physician burnout. And our guest is Diane Ansari Wynn. She is an MD, an anesthesiologist, and she has a master's in public health and is a physician development coach. She's also the host of the Doctor's Life podcast. She should have us on so that we could talk to doctors about how they can present better. But that's Dr. Ansari Wynn's decision. That's an unabashedly very public, shameless plug. Shameless plug. Yes, all right. Dr. Ansari Wynn and I have had a couple of conversations, and she's a delightful person. I really enjoy speaking to her. We have a mutual friend, Joseph, and looking forward to talking with her. Do doctors really burn out? I mean, you know, they're in practice. They've got to pay off student loans and deal with insurance companies and cranky patients. Do they just all of a sudden just sizzle?
Well, that's a good question. Well, you know, doctors, like anybody else, they're human, and they are susceptible to workplace pressures. And physician burnout is a workplace problem. Interestingly, they've done a lot of studies, and over half of physicians, actually current U.S. physicians, are showing some signs of burnout. And that's as measured on a specific tools, and that burnout has a specific definition. So it has 3 parts: emotional exhaustion, which is just feeling tired and overextended. There's depersonalization, which you'd kind of mentioned, where doctors act kind of negative, callous, or attached. And then there's also reduced personal accomplishment, so feeling less competent and less, like you have a less achievement in your work. So it's a surprise to a lot of people because, you know, a lot of doctors have this persona, of course, that we are above it all, including the stresses of our work, but we're definitely susceptible to burnout.
I think that one of the things that traditionally trained physicians do, and I don't know that it's intentional, but they're on a pedestal. And you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So a new doctor comes in. I had this happen to me. I went in to an allergist. The doctor comes in and says, "Hi, Mark. How are you? I'm Dr. Smith." And I said, "Hi, Joan. Nice to meet you." And she took umbrage because I called her by her first name. Mm-hmm. So I had to train her. I said, "You should introduce yourself as Joan, and this is my belief. Some people say it's not right, that the doctor should be able to call the patient by their first name, but I'm older than this woman by at least 15 years. And I think that there should be some respect on both sides."
Agreed. And I think we'd spoken about this before. You know, I grew up in the era where we definitely called all adults by their Mr. or Mrs. or Ms., of course,
right,
these days, and their last name. If they were a stranger, you know, we didn't get introduced to each other by our first names, and certainly didn't always introduce ourselves by our first names, maybe a full name. But I think you're pointing to there's the mechanics of it, like you were saying, where, you know, do you introduce by your first name or last name, or, you know, what's the relationship there? But I think underlying that is the whole concept of respect. And so if it's agreed between you and your doctor that you'll call each other by your first name, and, you know, that's the terms, then great. And if it's not, then I think, you know, just I think it's just common courtesy, or kind of going back to Miss Manners these days, because some of your audience probably don't even know who Miss Manners is, but the idea is to always be respectful and.
But at the same
others.
time, if you're going to a specialist, for example, and you walk in and you're a little nervous anyway.
Right.
And, now you have a healthcare team. You have your GP who has said, I want you to go to specialist X. And you go in there, and you've got this team now forming to take care of you.
Right.
Right? The doctor's suffering from burnout because they're spending their nights, as you've told me, at home going over medical charts.
And some of them do, yes.
Right.
And maybe they're burned out, or maybe they're not.
Right. But they're stressed. They're reading the latest medical journals. They're trying to keep up on new drugs, on new supplements that have been found effective to treat diabetes, prostate issues. I mean, it goes menopause, all kinds of issues. My thinking is that if everybody is on a team, the leader of the team is the patient, not the doctor. What's your take on that? Am I off base?
Well, I think that it's a cooperative effort,
right,
and that each person has their role to play on the team. So the doctor, of course, has the medical expertise. The patient has the expertise in their body and their symptoms, and what they've been, their past medical history and what they're able to do, what they're willing to do. And so there needs to be really good communication between that team so that everybody has an understanding. But I don't know if it's so much like, the general versus the lieutenant and all that kind of thing. I think that the most important, and I think this is what you might be pointing to, at least the way that I see it, is on that team, the most important person in the room is the patient.
Yes.
And I think everyone anyone on that team would completely, wholeheartedly agree with that.
I'm not 100% sure, but we will move on. We'll continue that conversation some other time. Because doctors, especially older doctors, seem to have an ego. And egos are great. I have an ego. I'm a radio guy. I'm a TV guy. Egos are good, but it has to be in check. I'm not always right. And doctors tend not to, in my opinion, say, gee, I may have made a mistake here. All right? And part of that, to me, is the way they've been trained, and they're overwhelmed, okay? I mean, we talked about the insurance, insurance companies. Right now, you've got a 6-minute window, generally speaking. A lot of doctors don't follow that, thank goodness. They spend the time talking to the patient one-on-one, finding out what's going on. And I think that's wonderful.
Yes, I agree. And, I, as a physician development coach and someone who talks to doctors when they are in distress, just to go back to your point of that doctors have an ego, or they may or may not consider the patient first and that kind of thing, and that and workplace burnout is due to workplace stresses. I think the number one thing that I hear is that all of the extra things like the charting and all that stuff that we were talking about, it takes them away from patients. And so my experience of physicians is that they really do want to take care of patients. And the thing that they tend to get stressed about in some part, like you were saying, dealing with insurance companies and the time pressures if they're employed and all that stuff. The main thing is that it takes them away from patients. I was at a conference for the American Conference for Physician Health in San Francisco in October of this year. and that room had 425 doctors. Most of them were physician leaders in various healthcare plans, or at least the leaders of their groups.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all looking for ways. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's like all paths lead to Rome. We're all looking for ways to be happier, healthier, so that we can give the best quality and safety for patients. And I know people have run into individual issues, and certainly when a doctor is burned out, they may start snapping, or even if they're stressed. You know, I just did an interview on the Doctor's Life podcast with an ER doc who said when she was burned out, she had taken care of a patient, and then she got healthier through exercise and did a talk at the same hospital where she works about 2 or 3 years later. And the patient came up to her and said, you know, Doc, I have to tell you, you're a completely different person than you were back then. You're so happy and joyful now. And before, you took care of me 3 years ago, and to be honest with you, I was happy when you introduced me to the next doc that was going to take care of me at your change of shift, because you were so mean. And this doctor, like, it was, you know, just hurt her heart so much, but, you know, she was thankful that she was able to recover from burnout so that she could take better care of patients, and she didn't even really realize the extent to which it was affecting her patient care. You know, she thought she was still the same person, and it's really, that burnout's really insidious, and sometimes the last person to know is the doc.
I think that probably for Diane Ansari Wynn, one of the most important things you're a mom, are you not?
Oh, yeah. I'm a
right.
mom of 2 kids.
2 kids.
And I also am a wife to another physician.
Right. So have you and your husband sat down and said, we don't want our kids to be doctors. They should be lawyers. They could be plumbers. They could be truck drivers, but not a physician?
Actually, no, we haven't. And it's interesting because, Mark, as you mentioned, I'm a coach, and I practiced anesthesia for 15 years, and I don't practice any longer because I had suffered from burnout. And even with that, we wouldn't dissuade them from medicine. As a matter of fact, I have a son that's in college, and he is very interested in psychiatry. And medicine is a wonderful way to be able to give back to the world. And it may not be, there's so many opportunities in medicine. Maybe patient care isn't for you. Maybe research is for
right.
you.
We're going to take a time out, and we're going to come back for some more of Dr. Diane Ansari Wynn. And I happen to know that as an anesthesiologist, prior to putting somebody to sleep for surgery, she'd go in and talk to the patient. I know she did that. Not a lot of anesthesiologists do that. I'm Mark Allen, along with the insane Daryl Wayne, and we'll have your son, when he graduates, diagnose why exactly he is. We'll take some time out. When we come, what you can do to find out more about Dr. Ansari Wynn is go to LateNightHealth.com. LateNightHealth.com. There'll be a picture up there, a little article, and a link to her website. Don't go away. More coming up on Late Night Health.
Attention users of the blood-thinning drug Xarelto. If you took the drug Xarelto and experienced complications such as cerebral hemorrhage, gastrointestinal bleeding or other internal bleeding, or if a loved one has died after taking Xarelto, you may be eligible to get a cash award for your suffering. Call the Xarelto Help Hotline now at 1-800-264-3150. That's 800-264-3150. To qualify for a cash settlement, you must file a claim before the deadline. So don't miss your opportunity for a cash settlement. Call 800-264-3150 now for a free, no-obligation consultation. Our call center is open 24/7. So if you took the drug Xarelto and experienced cerebral hemorrhage, gastrointestinal bleeding, or other internal bleeding, or if a loved one has died after taking Xarelto, call the Xarelto Help Hotline now at 800-264-3150. 800-264-3150. That's 800-264-3150.
The experts at Web.com want to build your business a successful website for free, just like we did for these current Web.com customers.
We've looked at other website designers. There's nobody better than Web.com.
Web.com can build your website in as little as 7 days free. Plus, we'll promote it on all the major search engines. If after 30 days you're happy, we'll continue to provide promotion, hosting, support, and maintenance, all for one low monthly fee. If not, cancel and pay nothing.
If you're in business and you don't have a web presence, you won't be taken seriously.
Call right now and you'll also get a free .com or .net domain name for your new website, powered by VeriSign, the world's leading domain name provider.
No upfront charge for site build, after which ongoing fees apply. Rights to site are relinquished when canceled. Domain included during active service, after which fees apply.
800-489-8751. 800-489-8751. 800-489-8751. That's 800-489-8751.